Welcome to Drive for Upside. I am Brewery Mark. With me is Danger Cole.
How you doing today, buddy?
I am doing great. How are you?
You know what? I have kind of a half day off, and that's exhilarating sometimes.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
I'm sure you're tired of having days off.
never. I'm just tired of having no money.
True that. True that. So there was some big brewing news recently. I don't know if you're following along with the Miller Coors and Pabst Blue Ribbon controversy.
Yeah, I saw that the other day where Miller is dropping the Pabst contract brewing, which will essentially put them out of business.
Yeah, it's looking like that. Obviously, the Pabst lawyers are going to fight and dig in and try to preserve it. But I mean, they have a 20-year contract. It's up, and I don't. I mean, I'm not a legal expert by any means, but I don't see why a independent company that had a contract that is expiring is going to be legally required to continue to do so. So I don't know. Yeah, what it sounds like is Miller Coors. Obviously, the mass beer brands are taking the biggest hit of the beer industry slowing down. Um, and some might argue the only reason why the beer industry is slowing down is the loss of the major brands, right?
Right.
Um, and Miller Coors needs to preserve its own brand. So why would they continue to waste time and energy brewing a competitor's brand at a break-even price?
Well, right. And the Pabst stuff they are kind of the hipster hipster brands right now, right? It's all the nostalgic brands, and
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
and Pabst is actually growing
Right.
in
What is
market share. So I mean, if I was Miller, I would say we're not renewing this contract.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a big PBR fan. It was my original beer. It's very nostalgic to me, and I love that brand and Hams and Black Label and all those other ones that they do. You know, I'd rather drink those over a Miller Bud Coors product any day of the week.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of on the side of Miller Coors here. If you had the ability to knock out one of your competitors because you're the one that brews their beer for them, would you not take that opportunity in today's climate? I mean, I would. So they're basically what they're doing is they're asking PBR to go from like $18 or $19 a half barrel to $45 a half barrel, effectively tripling the cost of PBR to produce their beer. And they make so much beer that the only other brewing capacity that could handle their product is Budweiser, and Budweiser does not do contract brews. So
Yeah.
this effectively, if they can't come to an agreement, literally kills all of those brands or forces them to sell them off to smaller chunks in smaller areas. They won't have the money to build new facilities. Definitely not.
Not that capacity, no. I did find it funny that uh Miller offered them a facility. Say, here, we'll sell you this facility so you can brew your beer, and it would do like 1/10 of what they needed.
Sure. Yeah. But, you know, in the long run, that might be a good thing. What if Pabst sells off, chunks of their business and refocuses in on becoming a small independent brand again? It might work, but I don't know. Sounds like it's the end of days for them unless they get some judge that agrees that it's you know, monopoly or some kind of thing there.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't They'll probably drag it on um a year or two after the contract expires, but eventually I think they're done, or the brands won't be done. They'll sell the brands to Miller or something.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting what's happening there. So that'll be fun. So I'm looking forward to this weekend also. Witch's Hat is heading to Festival of Barrel Aged Beers, leaving at about 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, and enjoying all that. It's very neat. So the Festival of Barrel Aged Beers, for anybody that doesn't know, is a large three-session, one Friday, two Saturday beer festival that it takes place in Chicago at the University of Illinois Chicago, and it's a showcase of wood and barrel aged beers, whether that be wild aged or Brett beers, sour beers, anything aged in wood, and then of course a large majority of it is bourbon barrel aged stouts and their variants. I'm really looking forward to it. We've never been. We entered a couple beers in the competition, and it's going to be really an exciting weekend.
Yeah, I've heard that's one of the best festivals to go to out of all the beer festivals.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a highly priced one. I wanted to say it was like $85 a ticket to get in as a general consumer, which is high, but the price point of all the beers you're going to be able to try are the highest of the high in the industry. So when you think about the value that you're getting to try all these very sought after, impossible to find beers, it's really not that bad. But it's very cool. They do a good job. So they even offer to send kegs for you to fill if you're out of state and you don't distribute there. And just one way keg fills, which was awesome. They do all the setup. They use all their own equipment. They use all their own volunteers. They make all the signs for you. It's really just an awesome operation. And the only thing that you have to do to participate is enter beer into their competition, and that gets you in the door if you're accepted. And then you just have to show up and represent your brand. And they have a barrel aging seminar for 2 hours with some of the leaders of the industry that's going to be taking place uh, there at the facility. And then they're doing a brewer's reception at Goose Island's Brew Pub. It's just really a class act. They've got hospitality zones for all the people during the sessions. They organize the taco party Friday night and a brunch Sunday before you get out of town. It's just it's going to be
Wow,
awesome,
I'm gonna have to go next year.
right? Yeah, it's so much fun. So I'm really looking forward to that. We entered our Trax Night Fury and our Rye Whiskey Night Fury, our bourbon barrel aged imperial stouts. So it's going to be fun to find out if we can get into that placement.
Are you pouring at the show itself?
We are. That is a requirement of getting invited. So you basically join a waiting list, and they select the people to participate, and then you can enter either one or two beers. And part of it is you also have to send those beers in enough quantity to go to the festival. So it's a requirement to be in the festival is to have beer in competition there.
Okay,
So and vice versa. If you send beer for competition, then you got to send beer for the festival.
right.
So it's fun. I can't wait.
Very cool. Very cool.
Okay. Well, how'd you do this week in your seasonal leagues there, Mark? Have you given up completely?
Um, I had a horrible week. Um, lost in 2 out of 3 of my seasonals and lost all my DFS uh lineups, but just barely. It's like you know, s- 7 of 8 players I nailed, and then one player is a goose egg, and I miss out on cashing by 2 points.
Right.
So frustrating.
Yeah, I got absolutely shredded in DFS. I took nearly last place in every single contest I entered, even the cash double ups. It was absolutely brutal. I put an unfortunate amount of faith into Cam Newton and crew, and they got absolutely blasted by Pittsburgh.
Yes, they did. Did not see that coming.
Yeah, I used Cam Newton. I used Philip Rivers. Both of them did nothing for me. I was highly invested in Kareem Hunt. He did nothing for me. I was all about Traquan Smith with Des Bryant being injured, and I thought there was just nobody else going to be there because Cam Meredith was injured. Des Bryant didn't show up. I mean, they had nobody. He didn't even get a single target in that game against Cincinnati. But if you recall, I told you my main dude in that game was going to be Michael Thomas, and he absolutely blew it up.
Yeah, and I threw him in a lineup
Mhm.
just because you said that. Of course, I didn't pair him with Breeze.
Sure. Yeah, and Breeze tore it up, and also Aaron Jones. I mean, he really tore it up against Miami. He was in my flex spot in a bunch of our leagues that we put together. I just couldn't get anybody else with him. I had the Rams defense against Seattle. They got torched. My cheap plays were Christian Kirk. He got torched. T.Y. Hilton, the Indianapolis, didn't do anything. So basically, I got Aaron Jones right and Melvin Gordon right, and everybody else just kind of shit the bed for us.
Yeah, and that was kind of the same thing for me. Is I had my best lineup was Aaron Rodgers, or and Melvin Gordon, but Kareem Hunt I had in that lineup didn't do anything. T.Y. Hilton didn't do anything. Deshaun Jackson didn't do anything.
Right. Well, my seasonal leagues though, I really kicked some ass. I only had 1 out of 6 teams fall on their face, and I lost the other game So I lost 2 games. I lost the other game because Zach Ertz in a standard Yahoo PPR league freaking put up 40 points, and I lost by 6. So even if Zach Ertz would have had a 30-point game, I would have won. But the dude had to put up 40 points. I had George Kittle remaining. Kittle had like 8 catches for 79 yards or something like that at halftime. And I was like, this is great. I only need like 7 more points from him. I need 3 catches for 30 yards. I got this, or 1 touchdown, no problem. And then the dude was shut out the second half, absolutely shut out, which is shocking to me because the Giants are not well known for changing their game plan much.
Yeah, yeah. That was crazy. That was a crazy game.
It was fun to watch. I mean, I don't know what the coaching staff of the 49ers was doing, to be honest. I mean, I'm happy they were in the game. I have no expectations for them on the year after Jimmy Grapes and McKinnon and everybody went out. But I really thought they would win that game. In the week before the Thursday night football game, Mark, I mean, they had what, 9 sacks, 10 sacks? They went
Yeah.
crazy after the quarterback. The Giants have maybe the worst offensive line in football. They only did one blitz the whole game, and on that blitz, they got a sack. They didn't blitz at all the rest of the game. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, yes, you have to cover, Odell, and you have to cover Saquon Barkley. So you got a couple of spies out there. So it's more difficult to blitz a team when they have studs like Barkley and OBJ. Absolutely, I get it. But only one blitz against the worst offensive line in football. Come on.
Yeah, it looked like to me they were hoping they could get through that bad offensive line without having the blitz, but then they didn't adjust when they couldn't do it.
Right. Absolutely. And yeah, I don't have anything else to say about that game. I was so sad. I stayed up. I thought we had it, and then that final drive, they just made mistake after mistake after mistake, and let the Giants get right into field goal position. And then instead of locking them up there, they played some more preventish style defense and let them get right down and score, and then they couldn't come back. So it's awful. Yeah, I hate the prevent defense in all circumstances. I think it's the worst thing. I don't know why coaches even do it.
I don't know either. It's been like that since the 80s. Such a terrible defense.
Yeah, I just don't get it. I really don't. It's just baffling to me. I mean, you give up that whole middle of the field and it basically helps kill the clock. I get that, but if you end up giving up the score that you didn't want to give up, then you've killed all the time you had to go back and score again. So
Yeah.
it's really awful.
So I know a defense that's worse than the prevent.
Yeah, the
The
Lions.
Detroit Lions defense.
I knew you were going there. Uh, they're so bad. They're so bad, and
So that was
I
one of our picks we got wrong. Allen Robinson went off.
He sure did. As I thought, you know what? This guy Slay's going to match up on him, and they're going to run the crap out of the ball. They didn't run the ball at all. Between Howard and Cohen, they had like 45 yards rushing. I mean, they didn't run the ball even a little bit. It was all passing all the time. They moved Allen Robinson around that field like he was freaking Antonio Brown. I mean, they were putting him on different matchups. They were keeping him away from Slay, and then anytime that he was on Slay, they just targeted Miller. I mean, Miller had
Well,
what, four
Slay was
catches,
out.
110. Oh, was he?
Yeah, Slay was out. So
Well,
he I'm guessing their game plan was, oh, there are only good defensive players out.
you're right there. There you
We're
go.
just gonna throw all over them.
It's insane. It's insane how much they scored. I mean, I was just looking at those stats. I only saw about half the game, and 6 catches for 133 and 2 touchdowns to Robinson, and then Miller gets 5 for 122 and a touch. I mean, that's it's crazy. So they didn't do anything I was expecting him to do. I thought it would be heavy run load with Howard, and I think everybody did. And I thought it'd be heavy targeting Trey Burton because the Lions suck against the tight end. They didn't have to do either of those because Miller and Robinson apparently were open the entire damn game.
Yeah, yeah. The Trey Burton one disappointed me because I he was my primary tight end. He was in 99% of my lineups.
Yep.
He was so cheap and against a terrible defense, and he only got me
See,
like 2 points.
you can't count on the Lions and you can't count against the Lions. You just
I
got to
know.
avoid the game from now on. Just don't touch it.
Well, they get Cam Newton this week, so I'm going to load up on Carolina.
Absolutely. So I was very emphatic that Julio Jones would score again, and he did. So I'm happy about that. I was very emphatic that my boy Keenan Allen would get in the touchdown for the first time in since week 1, and he did.
Yep.
That was pretty awesome. I enjoyed that. We were right on about not caring at all about Jacksonville's defense. Luck threw 3 touchdowns for just shy of 300 yards, and unfortunately, Luck's doing Luck things where he threw to one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8 different receivers. Nobody had more than 4 catches. Nobody had more than 75 yards. you know,
Except for Eric Ebron had
yeah.
3 catches for 3 touchdowns.
Right? And that is so sad too, because all signs pointed to Jack Doyle, and I might pull the trigger on Jack Doyle again this week because I think people will be overly aggressive trying to get Ebron. Um, and all signs, I have Jack Doyle on a couple teams. I'll still play him anyways. I don't care. I think Ebron was on the field for only a quarter of the snaps that Doyle was, but of course Ebron runs more routes.
Right. Yeah. It's so disappointing.
It really was. How about LaShawn McCoy looking vintage? I don't know if you caught any of the highlights of that, but yeah, it was against the Jets, but it looked
Yeah, I don't.
good.
Yeah, I hope lots of people load up on him because I
Me
don't
too.
see it ever happening again.
Curious in that game though. Robert Foster, a guy they were high on in preseason, kind of blew up here with 105 yards. Didn't get in the end zone. Zay Jones being targeted 11 times in the game. I mean, is it time to go ahead and take a shot on Zay Jones? I mean, he was highly touted this offseason, and they like him a lot. I don't know. What do you think?
Nah, I mean, maybe if you're doing a keeper league or something, you might want to stash him.
Sure.
But as far as like season long or DFS, nah, I'm still avoiding all these players.
You mean you're not in on Matt Barkley?
No,
uh, ten,
they're not gonna get that Jets defense every week.
all right. How about Tennessee looking great again? What's up with Tennessee?
I don't know what they did during that bye week, but they got their act together.
Their defense is crushing. I was pretty high on Corey Davis. We talked about this game briefly. You said you didn't like anybody in it. I said I could do with Corey Davis because they're really targeting him. 7 catches on 10 targets, 125 yards and a touchdown. He was good. And Derrick Henry doing exactly what we thought he would do: short yardage touchdowns, 11 rushes for only 58 yards, but 2 touchdowns on the goal line.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I really thought Belichick would take Corey Davis out of the picture, knowing that he's their best player. And they didn't. He ran all over the place.
They didn't. It really looked like they were trying to contain the middle. They were trying to take away the Mariota's legs. They were trying to contain the running backs, and so they kind of left Corey Davis open. I mean, they don't have any good cornerbacks in New England right now. So I mean,
Yes, that must
Corey
have
Davis
been
put him to shame,
Bill Belichick going, I'm not gonna let Dion Lewis beat me.
right? It's possible. It's possible. But Tennessee, man, I mean, they're looking all right, and they're playing against Indianapolis this week, and it'd be really interesting to see if they can win yet another game there. Um, they're 5-4 in the AFC South, and it's a interconference game. And man, Tennessee might make the playoffs. How weird is that?
Yeah, and that this Tennessee at Indianapolis could be a sneaky shootout. I mean, Vegas has it as kind of a low scoring game at
Mhm.
48 right now.
But both teams have been on fire.
Yeah, but it's the odds are even. I mean, the market's currently -2 on the Colts, but that I bet you that gets to half a point or dead even by the time the game rolls around.
Yeah, it's possible.
So, and Mariota and Luck are on fire.
Mhm.
This is actually going to be a good game.
That's gonna be. I think so. I think it'll be a great game. The last game from last week that I want to touch on. How the shit, Mark, do you throw for 400 yards and not score a touchdown in a game?
I I don't know.
I knew you knew where I was going, right? How the hell do you throw 400 yards, not get a touchdown? How do you throw 400 yards and only score like 17 DFS points?
Uh, You throw 2 interceptions.
400 yards. That's insane to me. But that puts us as what, third or fourth 400-yard game of the year?
Yeah, and if he would have had just one touchdown, he would
Hmm.
have been perfect.
Absolutely.
I would prefer it to Deshaun Jackson, but
Absolutely. So I kind of like this because I think that that's going to keep people off him again, and I think that it's going to get people's confidence too high in Washington because they're going to look at this 16-3 and they're going to look at, wow, that defense shut down that team. Well, no, they didn't. Uh, Washington gave up 500 yards. 500 yards they gave up. That's insane. They did not shut them down. Tampa was just absolutely so inept they couldn't get the ball in the end zone,
yeah, exactly. And we talked about this. We had no faith that Washington could slow Tampa Bay down,
and they
but
didn't.
they didn't. Tampa Bay, for some reason, just didn't know what to do when they got to the red zone.
No, they couldn't do it. I mean, Godwin got 100 yards. Jaquiz Rogers got 100 yards. Jackson caught 5 balls. Peyton Barber ended up with 61 yards, almost 5 yards a carry. I mean, they really didn't do anything to stop them. Tampa Bay just couldn't figure out how to get in the end zone. They just had miscue after miscue after miscue.
I know the penalties they had in the red zone, the interceptions. It was just like, what are you guys doing?
Nah,
I
it was
hate
bad.
I hate the Buccaneers, but I had a couple of lineups where I really needed them to score.
Yeah, I needed Deshaun Jackson to help me out. That was really my only entry into that game was my season long where I had him. So yeah, man. So ended up not pulling the trigger fast enough on that trade that somebody offered me. They offered me Aaron Jones and Amari Cooper for Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
And right after the news that Le'Veon Bell tweeted that time to pass the sticks, like, I'm coming back. So
Yep.
like I didn't need him because I have on that team, I have Melvin Gordon, I have Joe Mixon, I have Nick Chubb. I mean, I have freaking Mike Evans and Keenan Allen, and I had Cooper Cup. So I was like, Cooper and Jones are just going to be depth plays, and I don't need them, and I'm in first place. And if Bell comes back, what an absolute chance to have a rock star for the last 3 weeks of the fantasy playoffs.
Yep.
And then Bell decides he's not coming back, and then Cooper Cup gets injured, and now I'm starting like DJ Moore in my first place team. Like I'm still kicking myself every time somebody brings up Bell today. I'm literally just pissed off I didn't click accept on that deal.
Yeah, at the minimum, you would have had a whole bunch of players to trade.
Yeah, and I wasn't even mad at Bell. Like we talked about this. I mean, I was really adamant in our preseason game in our preseason shows. If you remember, I was one of the loudest voices saying Bell's not going to play. I mean, if he plays at all, it's going to be week 11. Bell's not going to play. Like this guy doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to get the usage on. If he doesn't get something he likes, I had hope he'd be back for the trade deadline briefly. But then when that kind of came and went, I'm like, he's not coming back. And
Yeah.
so it didn't hurt me because he was sitting on my IR spot. I didn't even have to use a active bench spot for him. I was in first place. It was fine. The only time that screwed me is when an obvious trade I should have taken popped up, and I had that one glimmer of hope from his stupid tweet, thinking he was coming back the next week. So the situation doesn't piss me off. Actual Le'Veon Bell, that damn tweet pisses me off.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, let's move on. I'm tired of talking about last week. Wait, I'm not tired of talking about last week.
No, no. How about
How
you're
about the?
the waiver wire master? Why don't you give us your picks for the week?
Oh man, well that too. But let me also say that Scott Newman Bale, that limey bastard, sucks at football, and I beat his ass for single first place in our radio show league.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he. I don't know. He just had all of his players on bye, and all the other players played poorly. But I absolutely put a whooping on him, and I teased him already. So I'm gonna try to get a beer bet out of him. I know they got some good stuff in the cellar there at Shorts. So
Yeah, I would think.
I'm gonna try to get a beer bet out of him for the rest of the season because I think I got our league wrapped up. Um, But anyways, anything can happen in the playoffs, right?
That's right.
All right, so let's talk about the waiver wire. So a lot of teams waivers clear Tuesday. I'm in 6 leagues. All 6 of ours clears Tuesday night, but the industry standard still seems to be waiver wire Wednesday. Um, but I'm not in a single league that clears Wednesday, so I don't know why that is. But like Dr. Roto and all the other sites put all their waiver wire stuff out Wednesday, but all of my leagues clear before that. So
Yeah,
I don't
mine
know,
too.
but it's Wednesday, and we tried to get together yesterday and we couldn't make it happen, so let's talk about it anyways.
Okay.
Here's my. This is something that I have always believed firmly in, especially as a when you're a team and you're in the lead and you need to basically just protect your team from injuries, right? So I'm in first place in a couple of leagues, and so I was actually pretty happy. I think it was Mike Clay I was listening to on Sirius XM, which yeah, not my favorite guy out there because he does all stats, which is very useful, of course. But you and I are kind of play by the feeling, play by the cut guys. We're not big stat guys.
Right.
And so I kind of get bored by his stuff because it's just stat after stat after stat after stat. And I know there's guys out there that geek out about that. I know like the Stratocasters and the sabermetrics guys in baseball, like cool, right? I mean, lots of great information out there, but I've always been a play by the gut kind of guy. But one of the things he said was so smart. If you're in this position and you've got clear starters on your team, which if you're in first place in your league, you probably have clear starters on your team. You're probably not juggling between four or five wide receivers every week trying to figure out which one's going to give you the best score. You probably have a pretty set lineup, right?
Yes.
So one of the things I look at this time of year is I start looking at, okay, how can I maintain my edge? How can I screw over any other piece of competition? And how can I come out ahead if there's a major injury, right?
Oh,
So,
right. Yeah.
so what I do, and what I do every year, and what I did in every league this week, if you go look at our waiver wire pickups, I win it, and I picked up a whole bunch of fun players that have nothing to do with my team, but in case there's a major injury, I'm really, really set. So I went out and picked up. There was one guy I liked the most, and it was Samuel in Pittsburgh, right? So if you don't know about Samuel, he is the backup James Conner, and obviously just got a big career bump with Le'Veon Bell deciding not to play this year. So, want to know another fun thing about Samuel? In Yahoo leagues, he is eligible as running back and tight end. Can you imagine if something happens to Connor, or if Connor sits out with this concussion he's got this week, and you can put the starting running back for Pittsburgh in your tight end spot?
Yeah.
That would be pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
So, I went out and I targeted this guy here. Now this is because I don't have any needs on most of these teams for a starter. I've got my lineup set. I don't need them. Um, but going through here, I liked him. Rashard Penny. I already had him on a couple of leagues because the kid is talented. He just needs his opportunity. He got it. He went up for over 100 yards, and it's a good possibility this Thursday he gets another good run at it, depending on how Chris Carson and everything comes out. Um, but Samuels, I loved. Another guy that I picked up is Spencer Ware. Spencer Ware has already proven himself capable in that offense. So if anything were to happen to Kareem Hunt, Spencer Ware becomes an RB1 instantly.
Yeah. And I'm surprised he's out there. I mean, I personally always try to get the handcuffs if I can,
For sure.
at least for my big players.
Yeah. The problem is all those guys for the Gurley and Connor and Hunt have been so good and so reliable this year that teams haven't really needed to hold on to the handcuff or haven't been able to because there's been injuries and bye weeks and other things that they have to pick up players. So all these guys were pretty much on the waiver wire. And the other guy was Malcolm Brown, the backup to Todd Gurley. Yes, okay, these guys aren't going to help you, and they're only going to help you if an injury goes down. But if you're in the position where you don't need that bench spot, and you pick up Malcolm Brown and put him on your bench, and something happens to Gurley, and that owner can't go out and grab Malcolm Brown, not only do you have a guy who could be an RB1, RB2 immediately in an offense, but you also stop that other guy from restocking his roster.
Right.
So it's kind of an advanced strategy. I'm not trying to say I'm smarter than everybody else by any means. I'm just saying if you have set up your team to the point where you don't need those bench guys late in the year because bye weeks are over after what week 13, week 12. So we got 2 more weeks of bye weeks and they're over. Hopefully you've got a solid lineup if you're in contention and you have spare spots on your bench. Throw these guys in there for a week. If you don't need them next week or you need to use that space, pick up somebody else. But what happens if one of those guys gets hurt? You got a home run.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of, it's a defensive move. So
Absolutely. No, I picked up Ryan Fitzpatrick everywhere I could after they were saying that he was back again. I didn't need him, but I wanted to stop people who needed a quarterback from getting him.
Right.
You know? So there's a lot of defensive thought, especially this time of the season when the bye weeks are almost over, when everything's kind of settled out. You have space on your bench. The worst thing for me in fantasy football is not being able to make a decision. So I hate having three or four or five guys you have to keep trying to play the matchup with. So if I can eliminate decisions for myself and keep the guy I think is going to be best there, and then use the other roster spots to try to get an advantage if something were to happen later in the league in the year.
That sounds like a great strategy to me, especially when you're in first place. Now, of
Oh,
course, me being in last place,
mhm.
I'm sitting here giving you the finger.
For sure. Yeah. No, it's cool. So, besides that strategy, which I know not everybody's going to do because people have needs on their bench and they can't just put stashes on there. Um, Obviously, the probably the biggest wide receiver pickup for the week is Josh Reynolds. With the news of Des Bryant going out, with them, picking up, or I'm sorry, not Des Bryant, Cooper Cup going out. They need that third receiver again at the Rams, and I think Josh Reynolds could be that guy. And he's got till Monday night to really figure out his role in that offense. And they moved the game from Mexico back to LA because of field conditions, so he's playing at home. I like Josh Reynolds a lot, and he was available in 70 plus percent of leagues still right now after waiver wires have passed. So if you need that wide receiver, if you want to take a flyer on a guy, Josh Reynolds in that high powered offense, I think is a must add.
So, how did he do when Cooper Cup was out the couple weeks previous?
So when he played against Green Bay in Week 8, he ended up having a big game. Only targeted 5 times, but he ended up pulling 2 touchdowns down because he's a big guy. Um, Not so good the last couple of weeks. He hasn't even had any targets, but I think with that opening there, with Cooper Cup definitely being out, I think they have to take a shot at him. So I'm not saying you need to start him, but I'm saying he's a guy that I would add.
Right.
Um, I don't know how I feel about Anthony Miller. I don't really trust the passing game that much in Chicago, so he's probably a pass for me. Their their matchups get real tough too. They've got Minnesota. The Giants actually do a pretty fairly good job. The Rams do a decent job um, for the next few weeks. So I'm not a huge Miller fan, but he's the number two in that offense, and you could give a shot on him. Derrick Henry obviously probably is going to be difficult to pick up. He was owned in most leagues anyways, and if he wasn't owned, he's going to be owned with his 2 touchdowns. Um, Corey Davis, I love him. If you were in a league where he was dropped, God bless you, because he's 87% owned. But I've seen him out there. In one of my leagues, he was out there. I tried to get him. I didn't have a high enough priority to grab him. Um, I don't know. There's a couple other guys in there. I mean, I'm not interested in Brandon Marshall. Are you? Even though he's going to be the number three in New Orleans, I just don't know if he's got it.
No, no, I think he's done.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan there. Kiki Kuti is expected back this week. If he was dropped in your league, I could see him. He had a role there, and I don't think it changes that much with them bringing Thomas over.
No, he's a solid play. I would play him as a number three receiver for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think he filled that Will Fuller role well when Fuller was out, and he comes back to no Fuller, and he comes back to two guys on the outside demanding coverage. So I think he's going to be a pretty popular slot option, and he's still a speed guy. I like Kiki Kuti a lot. I picked him up
Yeah,
while he was injured and stashed him in a couple of leagues because I think that the addition of Thomas actually helps him a lot.
I agree.
Allen Robinson was out there in a handful of leagues, not in any of mine, but he is a huge waiver wire pickup this week. What do you think about Mariota if you need that last, bye week fill in?
Oh, absolutely. He's on fire right now. I'd ride him as long as you can.
Yeah, I like Mariota a lot. I think he's going to be fine against Indianapolis. He does play Houston the next week, who's been a little tougher, but he gets the Jets after that. So that should get you through bye weeks if you need him. The other guy I like a lot is in Cleveland there, man. Um, our boy in Cleveland, I think he's going to be another guy that can get you through the last couple of bye weeks.
Baker Mayfield.
That's our guy.
Yeah, actually, I started him in the one league I won this week. So
Yeah, and their next couple of weeks is a cakewalk over there. So I highly endorse that, and he might even be an option for you if you're having to play the matchups. If you have quarterbacks that struggle. So if you're using like a Cousins or you're using Alex Smith right now, he could just be your starter.
I agree.
Further down the list there, Doug Martin looks like he's kind of on a roll a little bit the last couple of weeks. He's got Arizona, which is a nice, easy matchup. Baltimore, not so good after that, but he plays Kansas City in Week 13. If you're looking for somebody to help get you a spot here or there, um, other than that, I think that pretty much sums up my waiver wires.
Yeah, pickings are getting thin. It's late in the season,
That's another reason why I like taking the shot on these backups nobody else is holding on to.
right?
There's not many options out there.
That is true. All right.
So we'll talk a little bit about Thursday. News for everyone. We are going to start broadcasting on the Legend Sports Network, which is a group that's been put together by Lenny Melnick from Lenny Melnick's FantasySports.com, and we're going to resume our 7 to 9 p.m. live shows. The station's in beta mode, but I believe you'll still be able to go listen starting next Thursday.
Yeah, you'll be able to listen live. You'll be able to call in, and there's a live chat room.
Yeah, all things that are good.
Yeah,
So
it should be super interesting. We're self-producing the shows, but we have support from the network. I'm excited. The network's expanding fast. They're adding shows like crazy. I believe the official launch is February. Um,
yep.
but hey, we're here for the testing.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and we'll hopefully have the more content on our webpage. We'll have more content being done on Facebook. We're looking for some people to help out here and there with various other sports. We've got Adam White crushing golf for me. So I took the article from Adam White that we posted last week on the webpage, and I slapped 6 players together from his list, and all but one made the cut, and I had the winner, Matt Kuchar, that we were all super excited for, and 2 other guys that were trying to get it. So I did a $3 double up, and I took third place and got $6 from that, and I played a large field GPP and won $2 off of that. So even with one guy missing the cut, the rest of the picks were so good that I doubled my money in golf, and I don't know anything about golf. So kudos to Adam White for really putting a nice piece together, and he's working on the next one for this week, which should be out in short order on Wednesday today.
Nice. Yeah, he's doing a great job on it.
Yeah, and now with the ability to call into the live show, hopefully we'll get some talk from him. Of course, the Thursday show won't feature much golf because golf starts Thursday mornings. But look out for our own podcast besides the live network stuff, where we might start doing Tuesday recaps and talk about golf and hockey and other sports.
Yeah, we'll still be doing podcasts like this. We're just going to move to a. We're going to be on another network with that live show, so we'll still have lots of content out there.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that network, but it sounds fun and exciting, and I'm glad they're giving us a shot, and I hope it all works out.
Well, with Lenny's backing, I think it'll do pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. It's only going to add to a new audience of people that can hang out with us idiots who have no idea what we're talking about. So
Exactly.
I love it. So Thursday night preview, man, we got Green Bay at Seattle. Um, what's the stats on this game, Mark?
Oh, we have an over under of 49. We have surprisingly Seattle favored by 3.
Well, Seattle's been pretty good lately. Their running game is really kicked up a notch, which helps because their offensive line plays terrible. So they need that distraction to give Russell Wilson a little bit of time.
And it's in Seattle, which is one of the few locations where it's an automatic 5-point swing to the home team.
For sure, and it's difficult to go from east to west. It's it doesn't maybe seem like it to anybody, but the stats totally back it up. It is very difficult to go from the East Coast and go play out on the West Coast, especially on a short week's rest and playing Thursday night after just coming off that game Sunday.
Yeah, so this will be an interesting game. So we have Green Bay has the 4th overall offense, the 5th fifth best passing offense. And Seattle is. Where are you, Seattle? They are middle of the road in defense.
Hmm.
So on paper, this should be all Green Bay, but you're coming into Seattle.
Right.
Yeah, 23rd again, 23rd defense and 23rd passing defense. So
Hmm.
yeah, this should be an all Green Bay game, but like you said, Seattle, what they're doing is they're running the ball well, which means they're slowing the
Hmm.
pace of the game down, which
Hmm.
Green Bay plays a high pace game. So Seattle slowing it down is going to limit Aaron Rodgers' chances of scoring touchdowns.
Yep.
And if they're able to hang onto the ball, play methodically, and score a couple of times, Seattle could win this game.
Yeah, and you know what? I might shock you here, but do you know who my favorite captain spot play in the showdown is this week?
Hmm. Penny.
It's not Penny. I have no faith whatsoever that Penny will actually repeat what he did last week. Because it's Seattle. Every time, like every time Mike Davis would have a big game, they'd go right back to Chris Carson the next week for no apparent reason, and
Right.
then Chris Carson would have a great game, and then the next week it'd be the next guy. It's just that I have no faith in them. Um, you know who says he's healthy and past his knee injuries?
Oh, Baldwin.
Doug Baldwin. He says he's past his knee injuries and he's healthy and he's ready to go. The Green Bay secondary is not good. Baldwin has the potential to be a top five wide receiver every year. The guy is immensely talented, and Wilson loves throwing him the ball. People are going to be off him because he's had a terrible year. I am all about Doug Baldwin in that captain spot.
Yeah, that's a very good pick for that.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, he's only averaging 7 points a game uh, with these guys, including only 8.9 last week. But with him coming out and really saying for the first time this year, "Hey, I'm healthy. I'm ready. My knees are fine." They're going to need to pass the ball. They don't. They the Green Bay's defense can't stop the pass. Any better than they can stop the run. I guess they're just not a very good defensive team. But I think Wilson's going to trust him this week. I think he's going to throw the ball a lot to him, and I think that they're going to play from behind because I think Green Bay is going to come out slinging. So I like Baldwin a lot this game.
Yeah, I like that call too, and that's a great way to stack Russell Wilson into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have no faith in either defense. I can't play either defense in the showdown.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because you gotta have one cheap player somewhere. So do you play Janikowski or Crosby? I mean, the the implied odds are saying there's going to be a couple field goals somewhere.
Sure. I don't know.
I,
For my cheap guy, I think I'm really digging the way that Nick Vannett has been playing.
yeah, I mean he's had put together a couple nice games here
Mhm.
lately.
Touchdowns in back-to-back games. Only 1,800 in the showdown. I kind of like him.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
That's a good way to save some money.
And then what do you think about Devontae Adams or Aaron Jones or Scantling? I mean, who do
So
you play
just
from Green
it
Bay?
depends on how you're going at this. If you're looking like I am at the Doug Baldwin and Russell Wilson stack, that's pretty expensive. So trying to fit the rest in, I don't. Can you play Aaron Rodgers naked and just not pay any of his receivers?
That'd be a tough one.
Mhm. I mean, you could throw Aaron Rodgers in there, and then if you want to, I mean, you gotta just check. You got to check the health here because Randall Cobb is still going to be involved if he's healthy. He was healthy the last 2 weeks. He got 5 targets and 6 targets. The first 3 weeks of the season, he was healthy. He got 10 targets, 6 targets, 11 targets. So you got to watch Randall Cobb. If he's practicing well and he hasn't had any setbacks, it's a short week, so who knows what's going to happen. But Randall Cobb's my guy. If Randall Cobb has a setback or anything looks bad, then I think I like Marquez Valdez Scantling. I think it's going to be very tough to fit Devontae Adams into the lineup here for me if I'm building with Baldwin and Wilson.
Yeah, it says Cobb is not traveling to Seattle.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't caught up on the news yet for that. So with him out, I mean, I think you have to look at Valdez Scantling, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
I mean, I think he's proven himself better than St. Brown and involved in this offense. Jimmy Graham actually probably becomes a bigger target, but I think he's banged up too.
I
Um,
Rogers isn't throwing to him at all though. I mean, that Miami game, he only had one catch, I think.
yeah, it looks like his knee is hurt and he hasn't practiced yet this week. He is flying with the team. So I don't know if you want to take another flyer and go down and take like a Lance Kendricks. You can if you need to save some money, or you just invest in Marquez Valdez Scantling instead.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. I mean, last week with Cobb out, 6 receptions on 7 targets. Now
Hmm.
only 7 yards a catch and no touchdowns, but still, that's a 10.5 point fantasy game.
Yeah, for sure. So, which team do you like to hold the league? Is that how you decide which kind of kicker you're looking at if you're looking at those showdown kickers?
Yeah, I go, well,
I hate taking kickers on the road, so I lean more towards Janikowski, but seems like Green Bay tends to just kick the ball when they're in spots too, and it seems like Seattle likes to run some gadgets and likes to be a little bit more risky on short fourth downs and keeps the kicker kind of out of the game sometimes.
yeah, this one's actually kind of tough because neither defense really stands out. Both teams are good in the red zone. Because I usually the first thing I look at is who stalls in the red zone the most.
Right, right.
um, I'm probably leaning, being that it's in Seattle and the travel, um, Cobb being out, certain factors like that. I'm actually leaning towards Crosby.
And if you're looking in
And
that general price range, though, do you stick with one of the kickers for what could be a steady amount of points, or do you take a shot on David Moore to have another one of his games? He had 3 games in a row where he was 17 points or better.
yeah, that's not a bad strategy. Just like I like your Vanit pick too to save
Mhm.
some money.
But just out of curiosity, I mean, I think David Moore obviously has proven that with Doug Baldwin back kind of in health, that he's kind of faded away. So it's tough to trust him. But yeah, I don't know. I like a lot of guys. So for me, I'm probably going to try to find a way to get Rogers and Wilson in.
I think so. I All the points are going to come from those two.
Yeah, I don't necessarily like that in a lot of showdowns because I think that that's a play that most people play as they think, oh, these guys get the most points, I'll put them in, and then they try to find value in there. But I just don't see Aaron Jones having another 150-yard game. Um, I could see Adams playing quite well, but I really like both quarterbacks in this game, and I think there's enough value that you could fit them in there.
I do too. The only thing I'm debating is Doug Baldwin in the captain spot or not.
Yeah, I like it just because I think it's going to be extremely unowned, and that's a way to differentiate.
Yeah, not a fan of Jimmy Graham this week. Yeah, one reception, one target for 14 yards last week.
Hmm. I mean, if you have a thought that Rashad Penny can do it again, his price is very cheap, but their other guys are getting healthy, and there's 3 guys to run the ball with, and their coach just loves spreading the ball around in the backfield. He is not a one running back guy.
Right. Yeah, and Carson will be back this week. Full practice yesterday. So Carson will be back this week. So I lean towards Carson more.
Hmm.
Rashad Penny. He had a really good game though. 12 for 108, a 9 yard average and a touchdown.
Hmm.
Wow, man. Seattle has all these players and Pete Carroll doesn't know what to do with them.
Nope, nope, he doesn't. I mean, he's trying to protect them. They've had a lot of injury problems, so I think he's trying to spread the carries around. I get what he's doing, but sometimes the guys are talented and they just need the ball, and I think that's Rashad Penny. I think he just needs the ball.
Yeah. All right.
Well, that's really all I got. I mean, I like a lot of different plays in the showdown. The Probably the cheap guys I like are the tight ends. I like Nick Vinette and I like Lance Kendricks. Hoping that Jimmy Graham either is just ineffective or doesn't play or is a decoy. If you're going to go super cheap. Other than that, I like the big names. So fit what you can in and go from there.
Yeah, that's the tough part, fitting everybody in.
Well, I don't have much anything else, my friend. So check out the webpage soon for the golf, and we'll go from there. I don't know if you're around a little later, Mark. It sounded like Adam was willing to do like a 15-minute breakdown of golf with you if you wanted to get him involved. Um, but
Yeah, we can do that.
we'll play that by ear. If we can get the Skype and Mixler working, maybe we can have him call in.
Yeah, we can arrange something. That'll work.
We'll see what we can do. All right, brother. Well, thanks, man, and I'll have fun in Chicago without you.
I bet you will.
And we'll do another podcast probably next Tuesday or Wednesday together.
Oh yeah, yeah. We gotta. I'm gonna have to do a solo preview.
For sure, and I'll send you some thoughts, and I'll send you some players that I like, and you can use that as well.
Okay, that sounds good. All right. Visit our sponsor, imabeerhound.com. And thanks for listening. We're Draft for Upside. We'll talk to you later.